They were bending the character around the actor, which is always the mistake. In any other format, in any other genre of film, it's not this. But if you're doing characters that have been around for decades, the character matters more than the actor. I'm sorry, everybody. I know that actors drive box office, but the character is the important thing. The only reason I saw Aquaman 2 is thanks to our friend Kate. Again, Kate, I'm going to keep shouting out to you. Because of her, I had the ability to go see a thing that I probably wouldn't have spent money on. Right. But I'm glad I saw it, as in I'm glad I've seen that free of any kind of like obligation or whatever. And I really didn't like it. But I can't wait to hear what you think about it. I won't go any further than that. So
really, you don't want to spoil it? Is this something you don't want to spoil?
We should be able to talk about it, but it's just
okay.
Even if this weren't the end of the DCEU, this would have just been a very bad movie. I found it really bad. And it is actually picked up. Like, it's making a lot of money worldwide. So people are going like, see, it just had a slow start and people are warming to it. And I'm like going, well, I mean, people warm to shit too. I'm sorry. And I see the good things in it, but generally speaking, what a terrible sequel, what a terrible Aquaman movie. And I felt embarrassed for like contractual obligation people like Nicole Kidman. I'm like, oh God, worst thing you've ever been associated with. But it's just bad.
Yeah. It's been interesting watching. There's been a lot of videos put up by YouTubers lately about the end of the DCEU and what caused it to fail and all this stuff. And I know a lot of people, with us, like people like you and me being, very critical of Snyder's directorial style and not being a fan of Man of Steel, not being a fan of Batman. Well, you didn't see Batman v Superman, but I know you wouldn't like it. You don't have to see it to know that you wouldn't like it.
Yeah.
But if it is true, and some of the videos I've seen, it was obvious anyway that the DC management and everything was a mess anyway. But it wasn't just him. There was obviously a huge mess from start to finish that they just couldn't figure out what they wanted to do.
I do think that, I mean, and I dump on Snyder, and then I watched Rebel Moon and then realized, oh no, it's okay to continue to dump on Snyder even if he's not messing. I hope you watch Rebel Moon. We'll need to talk about that too.
Yeah, apparently he's still getting studio people messing with him and not letting him do what he wants to do.
Ish. I watching that, I'm like, he's always going to work the same narrative. Like, guys, just wait until you watch my director's cut. His director's cut, which will be even longer, is going to be released. This was all part of the plan. He now has this. Yeah, he has got this thing. But I will say it'll probably be a little better. But I'm looking at the bones of the thing. I'm looking at even the version that's on there now, and I'm going, you're not a good storyteller.
Because even Snyder fans have been panning it.
Yeah, he's an amazing visualist. There's some great shots, a good cast, given terrible dialogue. There's no story there. It's all homage to other things. And you can sit there going like, oh, that's his take on this. Oh, that's his take on this. It's like, well, how about trying something original and blowing us away? And it's just not there. I really, but again, we'll have that conversation. Should you choose to watch it. But I'll just say this is that I think you're right. I think it was a mess even without Snyder. You don't have a Kevin Feige. There's no overriding idea or philosophy or tone. And I think the reason the DCEU failed, the movies aren't good. The movies aren't good. I mean, you've got great properties, and I will sit there saying that I enjoyed Wonder Woman. I enjoyed, to some degree, Aquaman the First. I enjoyed, to some degree, Shazam. And I enjoyed James Gunn's Suicide Squad, The Suicide Squad. Birds of Prey-ish. But generally speaking, the grand sweep, and the Flash.
Flash could have been great.
Could have been great.
Yeah.
So, but I will just say that bottom line, and I still stand by this, the worst Marvel movie is better than the best of the DCEU movies.
Yes.
So that is a problem. It has
Yeah.
nothing to do with your love of particular characters, because I'm sitting there going, The Eternals, which gets dumped on all the time, is a beautiful movie. And I, as a comic fan, have never cared too much about those characters. Icarus, Cersei, great. You know, they're just Marvel cosmic people. And I thought that movie, which is underrated, is beautiful and really gripping, and there's really good stuff in it. Is it a bit of a mess? Sure. Still would rather watch Eternals than any of those I just mentioned, than any of the DC movies. And that is a shame, because I love Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, Flash. Give them to me. Just do them well, he said, shaking his hands.
Oh.
You got the handshake, DC. You got the handshake. Chad, I can't stop. Chad, I literally
It's going to be okay.
There they go. There they go. There they go.
Okay. One of the videos I was watching enlightened me to something I didn't know before about. I enjoyed the Wonder Woman
about boys and girls and when they like each other. What they sometimes do.
No, the first Wonder Woman movie, which I did enjoy. I did think that was remarkably better, than the other films we'd seen at that point.
Yes.
What I did know is I remember thinking that most of the movie was pretty good until the ending. Not that the ending was bad. It was just like, it's kind of boring. The big beat 'em up
CG
thing at the end.
Yeah.
And it turns out that wasn't even supposed to be. It was going to be, she finally encounters or finally confronts the God
Ares,
of War. Yeah, and he's like, well, I didn't do anything. This is all humanity. It didn't have anything to do with me. Which I think that the dialogue is still in the movie anyway. And then there's I can't remember. Doesn't that happen? And then there's a twist or something, and he says, "Oh no, it is me." Or
stay truth, I can't remember.
There wasn't. That was supposed to be the message at the end of the film.
Yeah.
It was like it doesn't have anything to do with Ares, God of War.
Wait, we got to have a superhero throwdown with a CG guy.
So they were messing with even the
Great
best of the movies.
David Thewlis, but man, I'm sorry, CGing his face on a big video game boss villain at the end. I was like, this isn't working.
Yeah.
No offense to Mr. Thewlis, but not exactly
Aquaman,
Ares, God of War.
Aquaman, a big step down from the first one, huh?
Big step down.
And what?
Big step down.
What happened, do you think? I mean, other than the fact that they know that their time was up, probably.
James Wan, just similar to Snyder, he's a visualist. The effects, as far as Atlantis looks amazing, a lot of the stuff looks okay, but it's just the story and script are just dumb. The dialogue they have them saying, I mean, Patrick Wilson is a great actor, and they're just having him do dumb shit, and I feel bad for him. Momoa is still very charming, but this is actually kind of the thing I have. This is similar to the Jessica Jones thing. I really liked Jessica Jones all the seasons we got on Netflix. But what they did that was wrong is just hit the reset button. So they didn't allow the character to learn or grow from the previous season. It's like, now she's back in the same emotional place. You're like, oh, well, that's not great. So even though I enjoyed it, I was like, guys, you got to move stuff. You can't just keep saying the same story. First season, she's got daddy issues. Second season, she's got mom issues or whatever. It's like, stop it.
Yeah.
And Aquaman 2 is the same thing. He's King of Atlantis. He's a father and a husband, but he has not learned. They make that regal thing at the end of the first movie, where he's got the costume, the trident, and it's like, and I'm now King of Atlantis. Like, oh, good. Our boy has grown up. Cut to this movie, and he's like, I don't know, man. Single parent. He acts like a single dad. That's one of the way they've cut Mira way down.
Yeah.
So most of the movie, he feels like he's a single dad, and every now and then she'll show up, and you're like, oh, right, you're married. But basically, it's like going, I just love being Aquaman. And they're like, I don't like being king. It's boring. And I'm like going, AQUABRO is just not my take on the character. So AQUABRO is where they take him back to, and he spends the whole movie basically like going, man, I'm not meant to rule. I just want to get out there and do my thing. And they kind of do allow him at the end of the movie, like to say, it makes a little bit of sense where he goes, hey, Ocean Master, my brother, your means were wrong, but you were a good ruler. So basically at the end of the movie he goes, can I just go back to kind of being like Aquaman guy and you rule? He's like, no, I'm a criminal still. I can't do it. Just trust your instincts. They're good. He's like, all right. And then the end of the movie, they do this. Oh, I'm spoiling it for you.
It's okay.
But basically he does a big speech. It's like the United Nations. It's very much like the second Black Panther. Atlantis reveals itself to the world.
Oh,
like we're here. And he's talking to the UN or the world, but it's basically like he's standing in front of, SeaWorld. He's not in the UN or anything, but he's like going, we have to work together to clean the planet, and we will use our technology to work with you. And I'm like, this is all fine. This is good stuff. That's a fine message. He goes, my name is Arthur, and I'm the king of Atlantis. And then he goes, then it's like they said, Jason, just go with this one. So then he picks up the mic and goes, I am Aquaman. Drops the mic, like, yeah! And I'm like, oh no.
Yeah, I heard about that line. Yeah.
And then the button. This is the thing that is so, it's appropriate-ish, that the DCEU, the last footage we will see from that universe, is Patrick Wilson as Ocean Master, who's free on his own recognizance, eating a hamburger for the first time because Arthur told him how good surface food is. And he's just at a outdoor restaurant. And also Arthur had tricked him into thinking that cockroaches were a delicacy. So he's eating a burger and he's like, pretty good. And then a cockroach for some reason on this restaurant is on his table and he grabs it, puts it in his cheeseburger, and then eats it with the cockroach. And he's like, yeah, even better. That's the last thing. That's the send-off of the DCEU is Ocean Master eating a cockroach. And I'm like going, great job, DCEU.
Oh, man.
I think they just thought we would just be like wrapped up in how fun everything is. And I'm like, I love a fun superhero movie, but just don't be dumb. And the dialogue is stupid. I'm sitting there going, people got paid for this? And again, I sit here in my little studio apartment going, give me 2 days. I would have fucking brought the intelligence quotient of that movie up by about, 10, 15%. At least. Give me a couple of weeks. It'll be a smart movie. But this thing is stupid. All right. There's Brendan's capsule review. Ugh.
I heard about something that sounded funny the way it was described. I'm curious to know if it was executed to be actually funny. Was that Ocean Master Orm doesn't know how to run when they're on land, so he's having trouble running? Is that that sounds funny, but I'm guessing it wasn't.
I mean, well, what's interesting is that there's an earlier scene of them running and away from something, and he's doing the arms back, but they don't address it. And I'm going, okay, that's an interesting choice. I'm like, all right, that makes sense. I guess he's used to swimming, so the arms back thing. So that's the way I'm thinking. It's not till like 10 minutes later that the scene you're talking about happens, when it's a much more extended running scene, and Arthur's like, what are you doing? And he's like going, I'm running. And he's like going, work your arms, do this. And he goes, oh, that works. I'm running faster. No, it's not a great scene.
Okay.
I mean, it had a point. It wasn't just, it's like, okay, that actually, I like the idea. But again, it's just like, he's not used to running on land.
Yeah.
And I will say, Patrick Wilson being in such good shape and being a handsome guy, and yes, he has the blonde hair in this, I just kept sitting there going like, shit, man, that's Aquaman right there. Yeah. No offense to Momoa, but they're like literally next to each other, and I'm just keep going like, that's what Aquaman looks like, and that's Jason Momoa, who's gotten even bigger. That was another thing that threw me off in this movie. He's swole, so it's weird to look at him. I'm like, Aquaman always pictured as like a lithe guy because he's a swimmer, And usually he's drawn that way. People don't generally rip him up like, yeah, I'm Aquaman. This guy's like a tree.
Yeah.
And most of the movie, he's running around looking like a guy who goes to a lot of Fish concerts. Most of the movie literally is him in that. You've seen it in the trailer, that sort of like just baggy, like rattan type shirt or whatever. And he's got like these, he's got a sash around his waist and he's wearing these loose pants. And I'm like going, dude, did you see him in Cleveland? They were fucking awesome, man. They were fucking. They did one song. It was 45 fucking minutes long, man. So yeah, you could smell a lot of weed coming out of the movie too. It was just like, I look forward to a recasting of Aquaman. And Jason Momoa, please find another character. Lobo is such a good fit for that guy.
Well, and along those lines, there was that clip of him on Fallon that I sent you.
Oh, right. Yes.
Which is so classic because you can tell he's totally unbothered by the fact that he knows this movie's going to bomb. He's like, because he puts his hand on Jimmy's hand, like, I will always have a home at DC, just in case you didn't know. He's so excited, and he's just, and I didn't really, I don't particularly think he's a great actor, and I haven't seen him in a movie.
He is a good presence.
Yeah, because I saw him in, what was it, one of the Fast and Furious movies where he was the villain,
like the most recent one.
Yeah, and it was okay.
And he'll be in the next 3, which is a trilogy, according to Vin Diesel.
I didn't really find his villain to be very compelling, and that, of course, I wasn't really watching the movie anyways. This is stupid.
It's Fast and the Furious.
Yeah, but I think Lobo, character like Lobo is so. I mean, people keep saying it's so up his alley. It makes so much sense.
It's crazy, like visually, also character wise. You want someone for a Jason Momoa who is basically a character that runs on that kind of charm, a roguish charm. That's a perfect character. I'm not saying. It's just a strange fit. And the Aquaman, they were bending the character around the actor, which is always the mistake. Mm-hmm. It's like the actor has to disappear into the character.
Into the role, yeah.
What I will say about the thing I think that Gunn gets and that Feige gets, and I just read that book on the MCU. Did I tell you about that?
You mentioned it, yeah.
Yeah, it's just really good. But the what Feige got is, and it sounds... in any other format, in any other genre of film, it's not this. But if you're doing characters that have been around for decades, the character matters more than the actor. I'm sorry, everybody. I know that actors drive box office, but the character is the important thing. It's the same with Bond. I mean, the actors are... no one comes in and reinterprets Bond. It's just various levels. It's like Roger Moore got wacky, but it wasn't them saying that Bond is now wacky. It's just that was the time it went through that phase. And, and then Craig was deadly serious and great, but it's just Bond's the important thing. And you can say he was a good Bond, a bad Bond, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But the character is what you think of. You don't sit there going, man, I can't wait for another one of those Daniel Craig movies where he's in a tuxedo. And you go, do you mean the Bond movies? So yes, Batman's the same way. We've had so many Batmen and we talk about the good ones or the bad ones, but the character is what is important. Mm-hmm. So, and I don't think that should be the case in anything else, but when you're adapting or adopting IP, and now Star Wars has become so entrenched, it is now its own thing, that if they were like when they did Solo, that was tricky, and I do think they did a pretty good job, actually.
Yeah,
underrated. I think that guy did about as good a job as like I am embodying this character as a younger man.
It's just funny. I was just thinking about that because my mom and I were talking about this just yesterday, because she texted me and said, I just watched Solo. I was like, oh, cool. And I called her to say, what did you think? And she loved it. And I was like, yeah, it was a really fun movie. And my quibbles with it are minor. I think the thing I came away from it most disappointed in is that they so fumbled the ball in marketing that movie. Yes. Maybe it was a mistake to make it in the first place, but I think the biggest mistakes in it really were them thinking that they had to pander so hard to fan service and stuff in that, even though, because the very concept was fan servicey. But like you said it last time we talked about, like the whole thing about him having an origin for his last name, which was so unnecessary. And it's so weird to hear that was how the movie was pitched.
Oh no!
Yeah, that was their pitch when they were like, "What about this? The origin of Solo's name," and they're like, "I love it. That's great. Let's make." What is wrong with you people? That is
I would have pitched it as, I would have literally pitched it as Han meets Chewie. Yeah. I mean, the whole thing is like, we want to see the origin of that duo, how they become friends. Kessel Run, we want to know what the Kessel Run was. Yeah. Him and Lando, I want to see the backstory. But the last name, never thought about it. Never cared about where, because for one thing, that's where it gets uncomfortable. Solo is a human Earth word, and we're trying to forget about what it means in a galaxy far, far away. Skywalker, that's all Englishy English stuff, and we just need to not think about it.
There was one little bit of dialogue that I thought maybe would have qualified that tangent in the story. It wasn't even really a tangent. It was just something they threw in as if it was important, but it wasn't. But there's a scene where Lando and Han are talking about their fathers, I think, or Lando asks Han about, or Han mentions, "Oh, my dad used to repair YT 1300s."
Oh yeah.
And Lando says, "Oh yeah, do you have a good relationship with your father?" And he goes, "No, not exactly." And I thought, okay, did he run away from home and drop his real last name? Is that why he needed a new name? That would have made it a little bit more interesting as to why we're even talking about it.
But you know what I like about that bit of dialogue? And again, I don't care about where the last name came from, but at the same time, I do think it was well written for the most part, besides your little quibbles and my same quibble, is that a little thing like that dropped in germinates the seeds in our minds of like, what was his childhood like? And so again, it just keeps building the world out. I'm not asking for another movie where we have little boy Han running around and getting that, but it will end up being fodder for another novelization or whatever it is. Someone will seek it out and say, "Ooh, there was that one little mention, and now I want to build like what kind of childhood led to a Han Solo." All that's fine. I love that, because you don't want it to not give glimpses into what came before or direction of, we know where it's going. That's fine. And I will say Doctor Who does a lot of that too, which we were going to talk about Doctor Who today. And I think that Doctor Who has always been great about dropping little seeds that other writers and showrunners will go like, ooh. Plus, you have a character that can go anywhere in time and space. And so there's infinite opportunities to go, the whole thing of like, you were a foundling, all that stuff about him on Gallifrey, and like, okay, sure. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh man, look at you. That was, you don't like that. You're like, yeah, fuck that.
Well, I didn't watch that whole, the stuff they were referring to about the flux and the timeless child and stuff.
Yeah.
That was where I checked out. It was when that stuff was starting. I was like, ah.
Are you okay?
But it really wasn't. It wasn't so much about that whole tangent. It was just the writing. I thought in the first season was just so bad, and it just tended to get worse. There was only maybe one or two episodes I thought were actually pretty tightly composed. With her character and everything, I thought was the whole, where it's like a couple of moments where I thought, oh yeah, that's Doctor Who. She's really.
It's a sad, like we've said before. It's sad that you have a genuinely awesome actor. Who, all right, I'll say it, I've got a crush on, but also an awesome actor who is just not done justice by the writing. The stories weren't great. The direction wasn't great. And I'm like, oh, what a waste of a Doctor Who.
Yeah.
And I do hope that she'll be game enough to show up in all of the little, because they will have them, episodes where they all meet up again and like, oh, you're me. Oh, you're me.
So you saw the Christmas special, right?
I did.
What'd you think?
I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I will say, I watched all of the three specials, and then the first episode with our new doctor, with the introduction of, I didn't like the name of Ruby. What is it? Ruby Wednesday or whatever her name is. I mean, it's like, whatever. Guys, and plus her origin, the idea that he was there when she was being dropped off as a child. I'm like, this is a little too similar to Amy Pond, where the doctor had met her as a child and comes back, and now she's his companion.
Yeah.
That was a little on the nose. I didn't think the actress was bad. I think that she was fine. Everyone was cast well. I loved her family situation. That's great. And clearly they're going for the new theme are like the outsiders. The idea of well, I myself was a foundling, so they're doing that. It's like, who do I belong to? Well, I found my own family, and clearly, Doctor with his companions is a newfound family, and it's a fine theme. I'm okay with it.
Yeah,
our new Doctor is very charming, and they are clearly going again in a very quiet political way, but it's sort of like, see, he's kind of the first really gay Doctor, and that's not good or bad because the Doctor himself is pretty asexual, but now that he's been a woman, and then they did that pretty great joke with Donna running alongside Tennant going, because I always kind of saw that, he goes, yeah, maybe. Like, I guess so. And that's fine. Pansexual, asexual, whatever.
But
now
sense.
We have a very dancey, singy. The singy thing. I'm like, oh no.
That was where the episode lost me. I was like, oh, here we go again with it. They're in a situation where they're singing, so they have to sing too. And
it's very Marvels. Yeah,
and and in Marvels, at least they went to go almost bent over backwards trying to explain why it was happening, which I appreciated, that nerdiness of it. And here they don't really. They kind of hint at that aspect of it, like, well, I guess we have to sing too, and it was just it reminded me too much of like Jedi rocks from the special edition of Return of the Jedi. I was like, oh, this is really obnoxious.
Yes, so it was a little much, and whether it's necessary or not, basically anything's necessary if you're trying to tell an interesting story. I just kept sitting there going like, that is a little bit. And I would have to be able to talk to Russell T Davies, which I would love to. But basically, is that him bending the character to the actor, which is not generally something they do too often with Doctor Who, though sometimes they will go like, you get like a Peter Davidson, and the way he looks, of course he's going to be in like the little cricket outfit, but in this case, they've got a musical theater guy. And so I have this, just like with Capaldi, who actually plays guitar, and they're like, well, the Doctor's going to be pulling out his guitar. And I'm like, okay. And so now I think it is going to be like, oh no, how many episodes will have this guy doing a dance routine or singing? I'm okay with it. His new, like, weird sonic screwdriver that's no longer shaped like a screwdriver.
I don't get that. Yeah.
Looks like an iPhone or something. And I'm like, what is that?
Yeah. It's kind of weird.
But generally speaking, story was fine. I'm like, okay, yes, stealing babies, kind of, and I do like him sitting there going, magic. Well, yeah, we just have to think in terms of folklore and magic, because that's also science. And I'm like, I like that concept. That's great.
Yeah.
Because Doctor Who has occasionally gone up against actual supernatural stuff. But I like that. They're like, oh, you just have to think of it in those terms, but it's its own science. Great.
Yeah. I didn't have any problems with the goblins themselves, because they've been much more ridiculous.
Some of the design of them was pretty cool. Normal sized people with these big heads, so that when you get them in a perspective shot, it looks like they're tiny people with these, like, and you're like, oh, I like that. It's kind of cool.
It was just that was another thing about the singing that bothered me, because they were first introduced and they're hissing like little. Like
but
little
then
cats,
they're clapping,
but then they
dancing.
Just sing they sing like human beings, and it's like, you're ruining it. You're kind of breaking the immersion there.
I just picture you looking at the screen like, you're ruining it. Stop it.
I'm throwing things at the TV. But I'm happy to report that we still have Mavity. We have Mavity.
I caught that.
And it was thrown in very subtly. So I have a feeling that's one of the long games for this season.
It's one of the long games.
That's cool. That's what I was hoping he was going to do.
Well, it just means that there is attention to detail. Yeah. The Doctor will be the only one who does remember that gravity is the word.
I don't think he remembers yet. He said it by accident in that one episode, and he corrects himself. You mean Mavity? Oh yeah, Mavity. So maybe eventually he'll say, hey, wait a minute.
I think he is, since he has whatever kind of a memory a Time Lord does. I think he can remember timelines that get cut off or changed. I think he has a pretty good idea of where things get altered.
Right, yeah.
But yes,
and that
he
would make
also
sense
adapts.
eventually.
He also adapts, and now he's just saying Mavity. So I did like that.
So I'm assuming that probably has something to do with this new character of Mrs. Flood, who did the fourth wall breaking at the end.
It was weird.
Wink. Haven't you ever seen a TARDIS before? So there's all kinds of theories about her going around now. Like,
was she the one that picked up did she pick up the?
Oh, we don't know.
We don't know.
She's the neighbor who who
was really mean to the guy, and then at the end is like, oh honey, it's okay. And then
her personality changes almost suddenly.
It does. So and again, is it because something got altered?
Yeah, right.
I don't know. But again, Russell T Davies, he's like, tune in next week or you'll find out. Mm-hmm. I'm game. It's like with Doctor Who, there's not too much they can do, though. I'm glad I have that attitude about it, because people getting so upset like they were when it became a woman, when it's like, Jesus Christ, Doctor Who is anything. That's the best thing about Doctor Who. And Doctor Who, the character itself, is excited to see who they're about to become.
Yes.
And they're like, oh my God, this is me now? Great. And so in other words, now it's this flamboyant black guy, and I'm like, it's still Doctor Who. That is the beauty of that construction.
Yeah.
The beauty of it. I actually do think it would be fun somewhere down the line because they have been skewing since Eccleston and since Russell T Davies, they've been skewing the Doctor towards being hipper, younger. I think it would be great if there's another regeneration, and maybe it would only last a season because people would be like, fuck that, where he does go back to being a crotchety old dude or a crotchety old lady or whatever, where it's like, again, in like Victorian, very uptight clothes going, no, because the Doctor should be able to bounce around with any personality. So to see them become another version of like the first or couple Doctors is kind of like, what is this? What?
Yeah. Is that he does mention in
this is my audition tape for, by the
way. When that episode where Peter Capaldi's Doctor meets the first Doctor, I've forgotten that actor's name.
The guy who now plays pretty much he doesn't exclusively. He's got a lot of work, but the guy who plays the original guy.
Yeah. He says to him at one point, he's like, "Wait, you're me, but I thought I'd be younger." He goes, "I am younger." God damn it! I've forgotten that moment. I love that.
Yeah. Man. Again, it is just one of the greatest creations, and to think it was all down to just sadly the first actor slipping into senility, and then them going, we have to recast, and then they go, well, we don't even know what his species is like, so he could just turn into a different guy, and they're like, great, because of that you have built the greatest fictional creation ever that can go on and on and on, because it's all made up nonsense sci-fi gibbity gobbity. So
yeah,
the next Doctor could be you. Oh, Dr. You. Trademark Brendan Jones. And really, just one episode in, I'm liking our new guy, and I have to learn how to pronounce his name because I'm not sure how.
Yeah.
It's like
Ncuti, I think.
Ncuti.
Gatwa.
Is there an N sound in there anywhere?
I don't think so.
Ncuti?
Yeah.
I don't know. But I love the fact that he's got this, was it Scottish? He's a Scottish musical theater
another
guy.
Scot, yeah.
It's just, wow.
So they're the third Scot we've had in the role.
Yeah. So, yeah. And like I said, as every reviewer pointed out, a lot of the Doctor boils down to, can they be the kind of, whoever is playing the Doctor, can they do the thinking under pressure thing? He did that very well. I'm like, love it. You got to be able to pull that off, and also charm. And the guy's got it in spades. So it's like, just like with Jason Momoa, it's like, I'm not sure how good an actor Jason Momoa is, but that guy's charming. I will watch him do pretty much anything because he exudes like, I'm so happy to be here. Love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
Absolutely.
Anyway, what's your shirt?
So, this is my, I wore this on one of our earliest episodes.
Oh yeah, Gallery, live fast, die never.
Yeah. It's my only Doctor Who shirt.
That's okay. I don't have one.
And a complete side note, pivoting back to DC, I was talking about this earlier. I couldn't find it. I finally found it.
Oh, that's the original then.
Well, it's one. This was I found online that this was I think the 5th or 6th version of it. It was like the second to last version of this they made in the early 80s.
And now they're making them again, though.
Oh, they are? Yeah.
Yeah. That will always come back. You
can see, unfortunately.
Oh, yeah.
There was an accident.
Yeah.
We lost Robin.
Oh. Can I have that as a sound clip? And I'll turn that into a ringtone for whenever my brother calls.
But this still works.
Lost Robin. Oh, it does. Yeah, the razor. Does the little shield in the back pop up?
No, but there were like similar to my my Lotus Corgi. Lotus. This used to have missiles that shot out the back.
Right.
Of course, I've lost the missiles.
Yes.
Kind of knock something else on the floor.
Don't do
it. This one used to have missiles too that shot out the back.
It's got the hitch. So you can put the bat. Oh yeah, there it is. So you can put the bat boat on the back.
I guess that's what that was for. Yeah.
Yeah, because it was originally sold as a set. You had the Batmobile and the bat boat.
And this is freaking cool in the back. You've got the.
Oh, I never knew it had that.
Yeah, and I don't think all of them have. I think the later versions had this.
I never had the Corgi Batmobile.
Yeah.
Well, why don't you show that off then?
The really early versions of it, when you rolled it, the fire in the back would kind of move back and forth.
Oh, cool.
Out. This one doesn't do that, but yeah, still, they just don't make toys this like this. This awesome. Is you could kill somebody with this. I mean, I will say that it's one of the faults. One
of the faults of the post Tim Burton movies is that, I mean, it's Nolan wanting to be so scientifically modern accurate. The Tumbler, that's not an iconic vehicle. No one I mean, it's like, yeah, I guess that's a Batmobile, whatever. And same with this bat plane and bat bike. You're like, they're not iconic. But Tim Burton was leaning into like, all right. And then Schumacher continued, and some of it's like, oh, I just want to have the see-through parts into the engine where it's all bright blue. And you're like, yeah, that's not the stealthiest vehicle you could have, I guess. Mm-hmm. The neon lit up Batmobile. But at the same time, those were where we lost like cool looking iconic Batmobiles.
Yeah.
I hope that Gunn eventually gives us a Batmobile.
I know. Yeah. I was about to say, I'm really curious to see what his Batman's going to be like, you know?
And I'm curious to see, I'm also curious to see Matt Reeves' continuation. Now, that wasn't an iconic Batmobile, but that was a fucking awesome Batmobile scene. That car chase was amazing. So I can't wait for the Batman 2. Have you seen the trailers for the Penguin?
I guess I haven't.
They've released a teaser trailer for the Penguin TV show.
Okay.
It looks like The Sopranos. I mean, that's just the whole thing is that's their take on him. And one of my quibbles about Matt Reeves' thing, and John hated me talking about it endlessly because he goes, Colin Farrell's great. I'm like, Colin Farrell is great. The makeup's amazing. But I'm like, playing the Penguin as like a gangster mook is kind of the whole thing about the Penguin was he was over the top, like proper, tidy, elegant. And that's why that was one of the things. So you don't expect him to be a mad killer, criminal genius. He's this dandy in a tuxedo. And instead we got this guy going, you fuck with me, I'm going to fuck with you. I'm going to fuck you up. Let me tell you something. I don't need a fucking umbrella. I will fuck you up with a toothpick. I will spit it in your eye and it'll go through your brain.
Yeah.
Okay? And I'm like, well, that is a take on Penguin, all right.
Yeah. But it's also this weird thing of like, incredible makeup job on Colin Farrell, but it's like, why?
Yeah, I know.
Is there a reason why
they needed to make find an actor that was
look like that?
Yeah. Find someone who's a short, rotund guy and allow him the chance to be an iconic villain instead of like going, let's take a handsome dude who's very fit, put him in a fat suit.
Yeah.
Just because he's a great actor. And he is. But still, I'm like, yeah.
I think it would have been more impressive if there was a reason for for that.
I think it really was just Matt Reeves going like, that guy is always amazing, and I want him in my movie.
Yeah.
And again, it is a take. Just like the Riddler is not exactly the way I would have imagined the Riddler, but it was a great take.
Mm-hmm.
Matt Reeves is doing his own thing. He is also getting enough of the stuff right to where the stuff that he has changed. This is just like I say with Marvel movies. He changed a lot, but he's doing it well enough with enough talent and foresight that I'm going to allow him to make these little changes. Go, okay, so Bruce Wayne is an emo guy with lanky hair who just goes, leave me alone. Leave me alone. I don't like being out in public. You're the Batman. Okay, you got me. I know, I'm totally the guy that would be Batman. I know. Anyway, so we'll see.
Ah, shit. I lost my train of thought.
Perfect.
I was gonna say.
I've never liked your trains of thought.
Yeah, trains of thought. Did we talk about this in the show yet? I sent you this clip of David Corenswet driving around listening to the Star Wars soundtrack, and he's reciting the dialogue.
Yes.
Did you watch that?
Yes.
The Death Star is in range. You may fire when ready.
I thought I was so. This is so cool. Like I still haven't seen him act in anything. I'm not that I can't. I'm sure, but
I have.
Yeah, and I'm sure he's great. But that watching that clip made me just instantly love the guy. Like, oh, I like this guy.
Well, I think just like Henry Cavill, and I say this with love and respect.
Yes,
he's a nerd.
Yeah,
and that's why Henry Cavill was a great choice, who was given shitty material. He is the Jodie Whittaker of the DCU, because you get the right actor and you don't give them good stuff. That's a shame. That's on you.
Yeah.
But David Corenswet, I saw him in Pearl, which is the sequel to X, and it is about to have the third in that horror movie trilogy, Maxine. And Pearl is set in the 30s, and he plays like he's a guy who is a projectionist at a movie theater, but he's a little bit of a slickster, because he basically comes on to the young lady who's married, but her husband's away at war, and he's kind of like, hey, you come by later tonight, I can run any movie you want to watch, and she's like, oh boy, and they have an affair. So he's a real dickweed, but he's very good. And the guy's crazy handsome, and you're like, I get it. And he isn't built up in that movie, but you can definitely see, like, you're like, dude, Superman with a mustache. He's got like a Clark Gable mustache in it, but still, he's a good actor. And yes, another nerd. And basically, the social media posts I've read from him where he'll address serious topics, and similar to Chris Evans, you go, oh, it is more than just looking like the part. You find someone whose personal beliefs are close to the character, that's gold. He seems like a highly decent young guy.
I think it was a little early on that one. You're all clear, kid. Now let's blow this thing and go home.
Quickly, did you watch season 3 of Slow Horses? Did you see that?
Yes, I did.
Oh,
that show,
so good.
And you know what I love Gary Oldman basically just saying, he goes, I hope the show never ends. He goes, I would love to play Jackson Lamb for the rest of my life. And I'm like going, absolutely right. Perfect. Plus, he doesn't have to be in shape. He can just eat like shit and show up, and he just gets to be the smartest man in the room. He says all the great lines. He farts. It's like he's terrible, and he's great. Oh, I love that character.
It's incredible.
The show's great.
Everyone it's so well written. Yeah.
Yes.
I love the the last couple of episodes where everybody's rushing to get to where they are in the last episode, and obviously Lamb and Ho, the man and the guy in the chair, the guy's usually at the computer. They're racing to the house where I forget the other character's name, who has been held captive the whole season.
Oh, Standish?
Emily Standish, right?
Yeah.
And Lamb tells Ho, like, you stay here. If I don't come back in 30 minutes, go for help or something like that. And so Ho sees the thugs, arriving in their cars. He's like, oh, crap, I have to do something. And that's how the second to last episode ends. I'm like, oh, cool. He's going to run in, but he doesn't really do anything effective. He just save it to the very end. Or he just
the very end. And you've actually forgotten he was going to do anything. He was hiding behind that party bus thing, but you forget about it. And then everything gets resolved. They're walking out, and he drives the fucking bus into the front of the building. He goes, what the fuck was that about?
Well, the time there was like a great pause because the first thing Lamb says is like, walk me through your thought process here. What were you expecting to accomplish? He's so patient. He doesn't like lose his shit or anything. He's like, what are you doing? It's so great.
And it is another wonderful thing where it's the gag about the guy in the chair. It's like finally getting in the field. And then it's like, no, that guy should only ever be in a chair.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to stay in there and be our tech guy because you shit. You're absolute shit.
And I keep learning his name and I keep forgetting it. But the guy who plays River Cartwright, the main character.
Yep.
So good. And I comment. There was I follow Duncan Jones on Twitter, David Bowie's son, the director Duncan Jones, and he was raving about this show on there, and he says about he mentioned that actor. He says I'm keeping an eye on this guy, and I commented, said, yeah, he's got this total like young Harrison Ford kind of vibe about him, but he's got this vulnerability.
Yes.
And Duncan came and liked my comment.
Oh, there you go.
Not the first time I've interacted with him, but he's he's a fantastic actor, and I see a bright future for that young man.
Agreed. And not that my brain does always go to comics, but I'm sitting there looking at that guy and going, similar to you, it's like that guy could be a movie hero, whether it isn't a superhero thing or not, because he is handsome. But he does have that real sort of, I'm a human who's barely keeping up, but I'll keep going.
He's making it up as he goes.
They do the character in the show that way. I mean, the whole idea of him going through that torture where the guy who's one of the dogs, his arch nemesis on the other side is like, I'm going to enjoy this, and just beats the shit out of him. And he's sitting there and you're sitting there going, how does that man still move in that fictional world? Mm-hmm. That actor can portray, I'm in incredible pain, but I also have to keep going, or this all, and you're like, damn, that is the Harrison Ford thing.
It is, yeah. It's so much like it's Harrison Ford in every indie movie, but my thoughts go back to the helicarrier, whatever that plane was called in the first movie, where he's just absolutely getting bloody,
the flying wing, where the huge German guy is just that wobble in his knees. I don't even know how you do that, because that looks exactly what it looks like when you have lost the ability to stand. Because he just does that knee wobble before he falls back, and we're on physical acting at its greatest.
Yes.
And then of course the propeller chewing the guy up. And today we would see that.
Yeah. And that delightful little grin he does when he realizes what's about to happen. Like,
and the guy's just standing there going, damn, Spielberg knows how to make a movie.
He does.
That just hit me again. That guy can direct a movie. But anyway, so we've covered a lot of topics, a lot of nerding stuff.
It's a good way to start the year.
It is.
What do we have to look forward to this year? What's coming up?
Well, this is a slower year because of the strikes.
Yes.
Damn. Well, we'll have each other, Chad. We'll just have each other. We can always end up talking about more Sid and Marty Krofft stuff. We got a whole bunch of stuff we can talk about.
Maybe it's time for us to pivot back.
Maybe we should start watching stuff. Old episodes of the SuperFriends, and we just do a review of each episode of the SuperFriends. Man, Aquaman was essential in this one.
I love that. There was that short clip I did about us talking about the Aquaman trailer, and I dropped in. It was a super Friends clip I'd used in a previous video.
Yeah,
but I didn't realize until I was cutting that one that it has the moment that you used to quote all the time. Like, meanwhile, Batman and Superman streak to the planet's surface. It wasn't exactly that line, but it was basically the same thing.
Because that was in practically every episode.
Yeah.
And I need to look up the episode I always quote, which is the one where there is some sort of black magic thing going on. And Superman flies into the Hall of Justice, and Batman and Robin are literally walking like zombies, and their eyes are bright red. Superman flies in and goes, obviously, they're under some sort of voodoo curse.
Right.
I just love that Superman goes, red eyes,
like,
zombie
I've
walking.
seen this before,
Voodoo curse. Love you, Superman. You know everything. Yeah, I've watched some of the early ones, and I forgot how much padding there is. Because they really stretched it out. There's one where there's Wendy and Marvin trying to find the Justice League or hiding in the Hall of Justice, and it goes on for 15 minutes of the thing of like, we'll run this way. Oh, now you're going that way and we're running. I'm like, stop it. This isn't Scooby-Doo.
What I like too about those cartoons is the recycling of sound effects.
Oh, yes.
Because in that episode you're talking about with the zombies, I think that the zombies like shoot kind of energy out of their mouths.
Yes.
And it's the same. It's like, I think the same thing they use for all the other laser rays.
They saved a lot of money. Like they saved them some money.
But they're such great sounds.
And I will say this, I still love that theme. And if I were to do a Justice League movie, just like they do occasionally with the Marvel movies, I would sneak it in. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah,
that's my favorite part.
Oh yeah, when it goes to and they're running at each other.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good. I get easily excited.
Yeah.
Don't make that into a sound clip. All right. Anyway, we'll figure out something else to talk about next week. We're back. It's 2024. We're getting older, and our memories are getting worse. Come and join us.
Yay.
Watch a couple movies, Chad. We'll talk about them.
Okay.
Sounds like a plan.
Bye.
Okay. All right.